Yo, Jesse McDougall here, June 26th. Going to do a wicked book review today. I just finished. If you're wondering what's happened to my face, well, take a guess. This is The Martial Arts of Money, not the talk about martial arts and talk about money. Okay, I'm someone that actually does both. Things I talk about are things I actually do with my life. So June 24th, I had a fight. It was a good fight. Early stoppage. Yes, I'm playing the victim card. I'm also pretty pissed off about it. We'll just put that out there. So I did lose the fight, but a good learning experience. That's all we're going to talk about that. If you got any questions about that, send me a DM and maybe we'll set up a podcast where I'll answer your questions about that. But moving on. So Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. I just finished it today. So yesterday I was all butthurt about my fight. And so I ate some food, ate like a slob, kind of had a relaxing day, watched 2 movies. And then today I finished this book. So right back on the saddle. Money doesn't sleep. Ambition never stops. Neither does motivation. So you keep going, keep going. Even with a face like this and an eye like that. I don't know if you can see. But this is temporary, right? Your progress is you keep forever until you die. And if you raise kids and you're not a complete douchebag and you're a good father figure, you can instill this wisdom and knowledge that you've gained from your parents into them, thus making the world a better place. Everybody wants to make the world a better place, but who's actually doing shit about it, okay? So, this book, wow. Okay, so this book was highly recommended out of the Tools of Titans. I think in the money section where most billionaires, I cross-referenced this book, and it was recommended about at least 10 different times between people Tim Ferriss interviewed on mutually exclusive basis. So, it doesn't take a genius to figure out pattern recognition. If you see 10 billionaires of the same book or in the same book recommending this is the top book to read, guess what? Read that book. What a concept, right? Okay. So the trick though, doing these simple things to be successful, they take time. Okay. If you're not in control of your time, that's one issue that you're going to have to deal with, how to get control of your time. And there's no right way to do it. That's really up to you. So here, I'm actually going to turn on the light so I can see a bit. This is probably going to be a long podcast because there's so much information here. Okay, I'm not going to go through and try to tell you the whole logical history of the Mongols and what they did. If you want that, you could definitely listen to Hardcore History by Dan Carling. It's just amazing. Or just buy this book and read the damn book. What other Mongol books have I read? This was the only one, I think. I listened to the Hardcore History. Yeah, and I read this book. That's it. So, yeah, I'm going to watch tons of other documentaries on Genghis Khan. There's a pretty good movie, actually, out about him. So I'm just going to go through, read some of the highlighted notes I have in here. But one of the biggest things I took out of here is there's this old Chinese proverb where wealth rarely exceeds 3 generations. So myself as an entrepreneur, I look at if I could make my wealth exist in the family, and the family can protect and grow the wealth and protect us as a family when I'm dead, and that's 3-4 generations, then I've actually achieved what most entrepreneurs will never achieve. So that's my philosophy, because what are we doing here, right, with your time? Why am I fighting? Why am I going into the ring and getting punched in the face like this and getting paid literally nothing, actually nothing to do this at a professional level, versus taking the time out of my business, and I made about $10,000 less US this month because of the time I put into the MMA training camp. But it was also, so if you quantify the numbers that way, you're like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? And you just follow logic, right? And build an algorithm. But that's not how everything works. It's not how life works. It's not all just about money. It's about personal happiness. and balancing all these things together and having a lifestyle. So enough of my rambling here. We'll get into this book. So I'm just going to read some of the highlighted stuff I have. In 25 years, the Mongol army subjugated more lands and people than the Romans had conquered in 400 years. So that's what we're starting with. That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Whether measured by total number of people defeated, the sum of countries annexed, or by the total area occupied, Genghis Khan conquered more than twice as much as any other man in history. At its zenith, the empire, an area about the size of the African continent and considerably larger than North America. At a time when most rulers considered themselves to be above the law, Genghis Khan insisted on laws holding rulers as equally accountable as the lowest herder. He granted religious freedoms within his realm, though he demanded total loyalty from conquered subjects of all religions. He insisted on the rule of law and abolished torture. After his death, his followers buried him anonymously in the soil of his homeland without a mausoleum, a temple, a pyramid, or so much as a small tombstone to mark the place where he lay. According to the Mongol belief, the body of the dead should be left in peace and did not need a monument because the soul was no longer there. It lived on in the spirit banner. At burial, Genghis Khan disappeared silently back into the vast landscapes of the Mongol from whence he came. The final destination remained unknown, but in the absence of reliable information, people freely invented their own history with many dramatic flourishes to the story, and often repeated accounts maintained that the soldiers in funeral cortege killed every person and animal encountered on a 40-day journey, and that after the secret burial, 800 horsemen trampled repeatedly over the area to obscure the location of the grave. Then, according to these imaginative accounts, the horsemen were in turn killed by yet another set of soldiers, so they could not report the location of the site. And then, in turn, those soldiers were slain by another set of warriors, just to hide the location of Genghis Khan's death. Is that true? Nobody really knows. It's history. That's legend. Okay. They sought not merely to conquer the world, but to institute a global order based on free trade, a single international law, and a universal alphabet with which to write all languages. Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, he was the one Khan that was really, really good. I don't really need to learn more about him, but he was legit. So if you can breed a Kublai Khan, man, you've done a good job as a parent. Introduced a paper currency. Mongols are the first people to ever create paper currency money, which is cool. Intended for use everywhere, and attempted to create primary schools for universal basic education of all children in order to make everyone literate. This is like in 1272 they were doing this. In Europe, the Mongols slaughtered the aristocratic knighthood of the continent, but disappointed with the general poverty of the area compared with the Chinese and the Muslim countries, turned away and did not bother to conquer the cities, loot the countries, or incorporate them into their expanding empire. So the Mongols smashed all the armies in Europe, but they didn't even want their countries because they were turned off because of the poverty. And they didn't even raid them. They just left them. They didn't want them. That's pretty profound. Unlike any other conqueror in history, Genghis Khan never allowed anyone to paint his portrait, sculpt his image, or engrave his name or likeness on a coin, and only descriptions of him from contemporaries are more intriguing than informative. In the words of Modern Mongolia song about Genghis Khan, we imagine your appearance, but our minds were blank. mysterious. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, there's lots here. Genghis Khan heightened the psychological tension by forcing prisoners, in some cases the captured comrades of the men still in the citadel, to rush forward until their bodies filled the moat and made live ramparts over which other prisoners pushed engines of war. When they were attacking a city, they would take the prisoners that they had, who were shackled in chains, throw them in the moat. They would die drowning. They would stack all the bodies, because they would just throw bodies in the river, in the moat, till they stacked up and they could walk across them. I'm all pissed off about my fight on the weekend getting early stopped. Well, I'm glad I wasn't one of those prisoners to die in a moat. And my purpose would be to stack other bodies on top of my dead body so people can walk over top of me. That's not a good way to go out in the world for your existence. So be grateful for being alive. Victory did not come to the one who played by the rules. It came to the one who made the rules and imposed them on his enemy. Genghis Khan's ability to manipulate people and technology represented the experience knowledge of more than 4 decades of nearly constant warfare. At no single crucial moment in his life did he suddenly acquire his genius at warfare. His ability to inspire the loyalty of his followers, or his unprecedented skill for organization on a global scale. These derived not from emphatic enlightenment or from formal schooling, but from a persistent cycle of pragmatic learning, experimental adaptation, and constant revision, driven by his uniquely disciplined mind and focused will. His fighting career began long before most of his warriors at Bukhara had been born, and in every battle he learned something new. In every skirmish he acquired more followers and additional fighting techniques. In each struggle he combined the new ideas into a constantly changing set of military tactics, strategies, and weapons. He never fought the same war twice. And I'm actually going to... That tells you excellence, greatness comes from the work you put in. This is just common sense, man. This is going to be one of the rules in the martial arts of money for sure. I'm going to write, just made a post-it in here. I'm going to write that rule of martial arts of money. And I'm actually going to send this passage out to my company, because these same principles, well, why would you send this out to your company? Well, I have technicians, email technicians, who are a component of their time. I'd say about 25% is doing research and development. So if you take the same mindset of Genghis Khan and you apply it to, say, what I'm doing for testing your different campaigns across different channels, yeah, it's the same process. Same process. So that'll be a good way to look at it. And I don't know too many bosses that send their employees that kind of stuff. Gets the people going. And also, what I'm involved in is big money. So we're not little teeny money. We're talking big money, like life-changing money. So Jesus was considered an important and powerful shaman, and the cross was sacred as the symbol of the 4 directions of the wind. The Mongols believed in the 4 directions of the wind. Okay, this one's going to be kind of long. It's going to be a long podcast, but that's okay. The secret history relates that Temujin, who is Genghis Khan's first name, grateful for having escaped death at the hands of the Merkid, first offered a prayer of thanks to the mountains that protected him and to the sun that rode across the sky. He made special thanks to the captured old woman who had saved others by hearing like a weasel. To thank his spirits around him, as was Mongol practice, he sprinkled milk into the air and on the ground. Unwinding his belt from his robe, he hung it around his neck. The sash or belt, traditionally worn only by men, was the center of Mongols' identity. For Temujin to remove his sash in this way was to remove his strength and to appear powerless before the gods around him. He then removed his hat, put his hand on his breast, and dropped down onto the ground 9 times to no Tao before the sun, before the sacred mountain. For the steppe tribes, political worldly power was inseparable from supernatural power, since both sprang from the same source, the eternal blue sky. In order to find success and triumph over others, one must be granted supernatural power from the spirit world. For his spirit banner to lead to victory and power, it had to be first infused with supernatural power. Temujin's 3 days of prayer while hiding on Burkhan Khaldun marked the beginning of a long and intimate spiritual relationship he would maintain with his mountain and the special protection he believed it provided. This mountain would be the source of his strength. Meditation. So, Genghis Khan meditated. One thing in that Tools of Titans book, everyone talks about meditation. Yeah, meditation's kind of important. I should actually probably go meditate because I'm definitely ticked off today. Despite the emotional reserve that Mongol men were expected to show in public, particularly in the presence of other men, Temujin made a strong emotional affirmation of his love for Borti and of his pain without her. He lamented that not only had his attackers left his bed empty, but they had cut open his chest and broken his heart. So here you have this leader showing emotional, emotional, he had emotions, and he wasn't scared to show them. Temujin, however, assigned some dozen responsibilities to various followers according to the ability and loyalty of the individual without regard to kinship. He gave the highest positions as his personal assistants to his first 2 followers, Bokaru and Jelmi, who had shown persistent loyalty to him for more than a decade. Temujin Khan exercised a decisive ability to assess a man's talents and assign him precisely to the right task based on his ability rather than his genealogy. So if you work for a boss and you want that promotion or whatever, or you're with a good group of people in business, the biggest thing is loyalty and hard work. To reach the upper management positions or controllership or CFO positions, there's a level of trust here. It's not just what you can do technically, okay? At the end of the day with management, it's leadership, okay? What does this person want to do? Where does their passion lie? And can I put them in a position where they can give their passion? In exchange, are they going to be loyal? Are they hardworking? If I can put someone in a position where they're going to be loyal, hardworking, and their passion is going to thrive and they're going to grow as a person and their career, yeah, you're going to have an excellent team player for the business. And you can't build a business alone. You just can't. And if you can, it's going to be a little itty-bitty business. And who wants a little itty-bitty business? You need about, I would say, 5 people to build yourself an all-star team. I just realized this last month, right here. Talent Media All-Stars, right there. Put together an all-star team. You only need about 5 or 6 people, and you can do some serious damage in the business world. You can build yourself a very nice business. That's where you're focusing on becoming great, as opposed to this huge company with 500 employees. Like, man, Why do I want 500 employees if I can make 60 grand cash or 60 grand profit US a month on autopilot? Having 500 employees, man, I don't want to deal with that. So one of the things about Steve Jobs when he said, once I achieve a certain level of money, I'm going to focus on things that don't result in money because money can't fix the problem that I have right now. And for me, it was a shame how Steve Jobs died, and a lot of other people I've studied and read about. And Genghis Khan's son, he was an alcoholic. He died from alcoholism. Like, what the fuck, dude? Your health. It's the number one in priority. So that's my number one priority. My health, my freedom, then money. Okay, so Jamuka then perpetrated one of the cruelest shows of revenge ever recorded on the steppe. First, he cut off the head of one of the captured leaders and tied it to the tail of his horse. The spilling of blood and the disgrace to the head, the most ritually sacred part of the body, defiled the man's soul, and tying it to the most obscene part of the horse shamed his whole family. Reportedly, Jamuka then boiled 70 young male captives alive in cauldrons, a form of death that would have destroyed their souls and thus completely annihilated them. It's fucking crazy what humans do to one another, man. Fucking crazy. Jamuka horrified people greatly and harmed his image. The episode proved a decisive turning point for Temujin, who had lost the battle but gained public support for sympathy among the Mongols, who were increasingly fearful of the cruelty of Jamuka. There's two ways to lead, through love or fear. Pick. My business leadership thoughts on ruling with fear or love. I'd rather do love. Why? Because if you're doing fear, you always got to whip people and tell people what to do and constantly like nagging at them. It's like, okay, but wouldn't you rather, I would rather people actually care about their job, care about the company, care about the growth of the company, and want to perform well and take pride in their work. Why? Because then I got to do less work. I don't have to whip them and like nag at them and be negative. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody likes to be bossed around and ordered around. People want to make decisions. They want to grow. So investing in people and growing people. And that's the way I believe I'm going to build a nice business where I'm not strapped down and tied to a computer, and the business is still going to be profitable. And that's called being a business owner. And once I'm in that position, I can sell that business to some other guys who want to take it to the next level. And that's cool with me. So that's my strategy. Appointment of loyal allies as opposed to family members to key positions in his entourage. That would mark his rise to power. Finding them guilty, he had them executed as lessons about the value of loyalty to allies, but also as a clear warning to the aristocrats of all lineages that they would no longer be entitled to special treatment. So Genghis Khan just smashed all the order and, John's, does this, that. Like, he didn't care who was qualified, who was loyal, and that's how he built his army. Let's see here. Temujin took them into his tribe not as slaves, but as member of the tribe in good standing. He symbolized this by adopting an orphan boy from the Jurchen camp and presented him to Hulan to raise in her jur, which is a house, not as a slave, but as her son. By having his mother adopt the Jurchen boy, as he had her previously adopt one each from the defeated Merkid, Taichid, and Tartars, Temujin was accepting the boys as his younger brothers. He accepted the conquered people into his tribe with the possibility that they would share fairly in the future conquest and prosperity of his army. Interesting. Okay, this one's a long one. In a final display of his new power, Temujin, I've got this paragraph highlighted and it says, whoa. So I'm interested to see what it says. In a final display of his new power, Temujin ended the Jurchen episode with a feast for both victorious Mongols and their newly adopted relatives. For the feast, he summoned Buri, the wrestler who had cut Belgudui at the feast the year before, and ordered a wrestling match between the two men. No one had ever defeated Buri, but in his fear of Temujin's wrath, he allowed Belgutai to throw him. Normally at this point the match would have been finished, but Temujin and Belguti apparently worked out a different plan. Belguti seized Buri's shoulders and mounted his rump like a horse, and upon receiving a signal from Temujin, he plunged his knee into Buri's back and snapped his spinal cord. Belguti then dragged Buri's paralyzed body outside the camp, leaving him to die alone. Temujin had rid himself of all the leaders of the Jurchen. The message was clear to all their related clans of the steppe. To those who followed Temujin faithfully, there would be rewards and good treatment. To those who chose to attack him, would show no mercy. Let's see here. Getting kind of tired of reading. My mouth's getting pasty. So yeah, I didn't even put a dent. This is 26 minutes in. I didn't even put a dent into what this story is about. Yeah, this, you just have to read this book. This is like, whoa. This definitely will open up your brain. If you're someone interested into world history, global affairs. Yeah. Genghis Khan, The Making of the Modern World. I hope you enjoyed some of the just random stuff I threw at you. It just started at the beginning and was going through. But I covered maybe not even the first 2 chapters. This book is a wealth of knowledge. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah, love history. Helps me appreciate why I'm here. And learn from the greats, man. If you can become 0.01% of a great person, you're going to be a pretty good person in today's society. All right, peace. Any questions? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Follow me on YouTube. I'm up to 25 subscribers. Woot. I haven't been putting any work into my channel. Just making these random podcasts. I do have a plan here. Could use some help with some of the tech stuff, but I'll probably just hire a VA. And anyways, take care, guys. Hope you enjoy your day.